Welcome to the Growth Minded Accountant podcast, where our experts will share best practices on running your firm in the digital age. This podcast is brought to you by CountingWorks PRO. Let's get started.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 1 of the Growth Minded Accountant. How's it going, Lee? How are you doing?
I'm doing quite fine. I think after the day, the way it started, actually, I had a little multiple challenges, but I think it's come around perfectly. So I'm ready to talk about some marketing things and some challenges I've seen at our existing client base, and some emails we get. People are too busy. They can't handle any more clients. So it's a definitely interesting time in the tax and accounting space.
Yeah, and I feel you on that. I'm a little under the weather on this episode 1, but we're gonna get through it. And you kind of set us up there really nice, right? I know we've been doing a lot of messages on LinkedIn. You've been talking to a lot of accounting firms. You've been talking to a lot of solo firms, and I think there's this sense, right? Like everybody's really busy right now, right? Like more clients. They don't want more clients. They don't want more work. They can barely keep track of what they're doing now. And that's great to hear, number one, right? But I also think that's maybe some cause for some concerns too. I'd love to maybe get a sense of maybe some of the things you are hearing, and let's maybe dive into, I think why that school of thought is concerning right now as well, and some of the changes that a firm should make as they kind of think about maybe growth again going into the second half of this year or getting out of busy season now.
Yeah, there's a bunch of ways to go with that question. One of the things I think is the most obvious is the reason for it. And I think it's a combination of the pandemic and then the great resignation and then older demographics in the tax and accounting space. So you had a lot of what I'll call old schoolers decide that enough is enough. I've had enough complexity, between the tax law changes that came through the Trump era to, what they're trying to do today, PPP loans, you name it, you started adding it all up. Being an accountant has become a very tiring job. And, a lot of them had to transition from kind of their paper-based in-office experiences to remote. And a lot of them have done really well. Others have been challenged. And I think a lot of that, the challenge is perhaps the way a lot of these firms set themselves up in the beginning. They didn't position themselves. They were very much generalists. So they have clients from all these different backgrounds. They're referral based. So, you end up where you might have a different client with a different, especially if it's business clients, you might have clients that have all sorts of different backgrounds, different needs. You have to actually research and prepare in order to serve them. And I think that becomes much more of a bigger challenge to the generalists in a time when there's so much demand for, from your current clients. Everyone needs you. Everyone has complex tax situations, and you have to relearn for every client, what the answers are. And if you were following some of what we have talked about in our other podcasts and webinars, being a positioned firm, the reality is you'll know the questions before your clients even ask them. You're going to spend less time dealing with them, giving better advice, really, and the best part about it is getting a premium pricing for that. So I think that's kind of the beginning of an answer to that question on kind of where things are today and why they're there.
Isn't that kind of the trap of two things? I think the generalist firm, then also the referral model, right? That a lot of people look, it's a pat on the back if you're built off a referral model. It means you're doing good work for good people, right? And they're giving you word of mouth, and that's going for you. But a lot of times, if you're a generalist and you're feeling the crunch of time and you're overworked and you feel that, you're going to get more of the same type of clients typically if you're getting those referrals. And that's part of what a lot of people don't talk about, where referrals are good, but if you're feeling crunched for time and you have demanding customers and you're getting referrals of more of the same, essentially, or more of what you've gotten in the past.
Well, you can end up with a bunch of clients who are nickel and diming you, which is the biggest fear. I don't discount referral because we talk a lot about how to grow, and there's a way to scale with position firms and using inbound marketing. But the reality is you get tons. I mean, some of our best customers are position firms and primarily referral based. But the referrals are all the same type of clients. And, they already have built their authority and trust in that vertical or niche. So when they do get those referrals, you want to save time. If you properly pre-sell your audience through a really well-built website that answers the question of the prospects, we know, is it 80% of all the research is done ahead of time before they reach out to contact you? If you're not getting phone calls, and we'll see that occasionally where someone says, I haven't gotten any leads. Well, guess what? What they see in your story is so watered down, you don't have social proof, you don't have reviews, that when they get to your site, there's nothing about you that makes them go to that intent type buyer. So there's a lot of different things that you got to look at, to kind of dissect and to figure out, what is the best approach for me. When it comes to the generalists and the type of clients you get, you're right. If a certain type of client is referring people to you, most likely they're similar to them, whether they're colleagues or in industry, and they may not be your ideal client. So a lot of times I say step back and look at your practice and say, who are the clients I really want to work with? And how can I get more out of them or attract people similar to them? So I think that's a good direction to go when you're kind of figuring out your own plan.
Yeah, so the goal of positioning, right, is so that you can get better clients that are maybe less demanding of your time, or if I'm kind of reading what you're saying or reading between the lines a little bit, right, is look for where the opportunity is, right? Where are the right fit clients that nobody else is maybe serving right now or under service that you can go, what I say, command a price premium. So you're going to make more, you're going to probably get more of your time, and you'll be seen as an expert instead of a generalist, which will be that growth lever for you, right? You're not actually growing through more clients, you're probably growing through less clients because you're commanding more of a premium and you're getting back your time. And that's one way that you can, where you're saying, oh, I'm too busy, I can't grow. Like, well, that is one growth opportunity actually, is there's ways to grow by actually doing less work.
Well, 100%. And then I always say charge for your expertise, not by the hour. And if you can figure out ways to package your process and make it so that people, when they go to hire you, it's easier to figure out what you're offering. If you're in that black hole of looking like a lawyer, I charge hourly, you're not transparent with your pricing, you're not niched down, where as a prospect, I can go in and say, from looking at their website right away, from the images, the copy, that this person works in my vertical, this person knows me. Right away, that you're building trust. And when I go into the pricing premium, generalists see it all the time where they lose out on business. I can do that work. Why is so-and-so who is specialized getting more money than I do? I'm even lowering my pricing to get the same work, but yet they're still attracting people that are paying more. And that's kind of the premium that comes with a niche down, a position practice. But when we're going back to saving time, think about if you pre-sell all your clients, if your digital marketing efforts are, if you've established yourself, you're ranking on page 1 of Google, you have 50, 100 5-star reviews, your website is easy for people to understand, they're getting the answers to their questions. By the time they click that button on your scheduler to connect on a free discovery call, or even if you charge for it, by the time they connect with you, they're already pre-sold. They've done all their research. They've done the consideration. They're ready then more to, what are the details? How do I get started? Versus you spending a longer time qualifying a lead. And we teach a one-call close process. So we actually teach you what are the questions you ask, open-ended questions that you can then lead the narrative around with those responses, and then decide also, do I want to work with this client as well as do they want to work with me? But those are things or areas that you're probably spending a ton of time, and if you could compress the time it takes a lead to turn to convert to a client from what you're doing today, that might be freeing up a lot of your valuable time in the first place.
Yeah. Thinking about that further, there's kind of two thoughts I have. One is, while you're already maxed out is probably the great time to think about the type of firm you want to be, right? That's actually the wrong time to turn off growth, in my opinion. It's the right time to really think about the type of firm you want to be. And then also, not to promote CountingWorks, that's not the goal here, right? But you can stay a generalist, go spin up another website, right? Try to position yourself and go try to test the waters, go out and see if you can gain traction around that while you're, because that's always the fear too. Oh, well, I'm going to start losing customers if I start positioning and stuff like that. Well, while you're maxed out and busy, keep the general stuff running, go spin up a second website, position it. You can get the industry niche content on it, really start building that engine going and getting that going, because it's the perfect time to do it while you're not hurting for business, I think.
Yeah, and we're starting to see clients that are stepping up and taking the risk. So when we talk about this, I know we're talking to a risk-averse demographic. A lot of accountants, they're making that big move. It's like, oh my, what happens? What if it doesn't work out? I'm happy. Then all of a sudden I'm happy, the same as last year. That's kind of a saying you hear across the industry. So what we did is, yes, we set up our new platform that we launched in January to allow someone to manage multiple properties through one dashboard, so one marketing dashboard. So meaning you could create your generalist, quote unquote, your conservative website, and you could then start iterating and testing different verticals. So they could be service verticals versus types of professions. An example, let's say you go after expat taxes, but you can even narrow it down further. I'm going after U.S. expats that live in a specific country and go that narrow where you're going to rank better, and you can create a really simplified landing page and experience that speaks to the audience, tells them your value proposition, how you're going to help them. And also in their mind, wait a sec, this person knows the country that I live in. They're going to know all the treaties, everything behind it. You're not I'm going to call it a generalist expat. You're narrowed down. And if there is an area where there's enough expats in that country, for example, which most countries, because of the nomads and everything that are around, it makes that another opportunity. So yeah, we have one new client on our new platform. I think they now have like 6 different, they have their main website, and they've launched 6 different landing page, vertical niche sites. And I don't know specifically how they're targeting or how they're driving traffic to them, but they're definitely going all in, creating some cornerstone content around that group they're speaking to and really starting the conversations there. So it's definitely something, we have identified. And the way, what's unique about our platform is we set it up so not only can you have your website, but the blog feed, social media posts, and a client newsletter specific to that vertical. So that is very powerful, and being able to manage it all in an automated platform, I think is unique to the industry.
Yeah, let's I'm going to try to, I think that's great, right? And that's one way I think to really grow through new clients. But we were talking a little bit offline a little bit too about, well, there's not just the new client route, right? You can really grow through your current clients and how you can manage, especially when you're too busy. There's probably it's probably your best opportunity, like very short term. Like if you're thinking I'm maxed out, I don't want to take on new clients, but how can I drive growth this year? Probably is through your existing client base and how you leverage that and stuff. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, and we've been working together, developing content around that. So one of the things that the two low-hanging fruit are tax prep to tax planning, upselling, and bookkeeping, accounting to virtual CFO upselling. So taking someone that's a tax prep client that maybe spends $500 or $1,000 a year with you, identifying a segment of my clients that it makes sense that they would subscribe to a monthly or a quarterly tax planning type program, and that's the biggest no-brainer ever. If you had 100 clients and you identified 25 of them, and you could make 5 to 10 times the amount you were from that client. Accountants, you could do the math. You could be working with a lot fewer clients and providing more value. I mean, they're going to love you and be more dependable, long term than any other client. They're not going to look at you as a commodity. They're going to look at real value added. The same is true for virtual CFOs. Fractional CFO, it could not be more lucrative right now, and you can really niche down in that side as well, because there's so many different needs to so many business owners that they don't have a budget to hire a full-time CFO. And the reality is too, what's nice about an accountant, a CPA, an enrolled agent, whatever, that's doing CFO services is you're going to bring experience from multiple clients. And a CFO at a single client doesn't necessarily see everything that's going on out there. So there's some real value from the end user's point of view. You're going to be able to bring a better product or better experience, hopefully. I always say better financial outcome, because you're going to know, the insights of what's really working, what's not, where are the pain points, and how we resolve them with others. So those are two areas that we're heavy into in our campaigner inside our system, teaching them how to upsell, have outbound campaigns via email, even a text, how to say, hey, clients, I've identified you as a good prospect for this new service. This is what it entails. Let's check it out. Be transparent with pricing. You could create a landing page around this as well. Have free discovery calls. Have some quotes from other people that have done it. I think these are real big opportunities.
Is it really as simple as that? Firms just really kind of stink at marketing. Like, they're just not promoting themselves, even to their clients, very well about the services they offer. Like, a lot of, at least I think, is a lot of clients just don't know all the services that a firm offers usually, right? Like, they don't know this stuff exists out there heavily, or that they should be looking at it. They're not educated on it. And that's kind of like the big opportunity that gets missed, is you have the clients, right? And that's your number one growth lever. And you're not educating them on all the ways you can help your firm. And I think too, maybe before you get into that too, is like, that also presents a risk, right? Which is somebody else can easily start educating that client and kind of take them from you before you know it.
Right. Well, the second part, I'm actually going to touch on the second part first, because one of the things I would say to someone who says, I don't have time for marketing, I don't need to market, is someone else 100% is going to build that, become that expert, become that authority, that influencer. You'll look at it and go, this guy, doesn't know anything more than I do. But they're going to establish themselves, and then they'll start poaching your clients. So by doing that, there's two things. Authority and trust is what marketing for accounting services, tax services is all about. So how do I promote or educate people about the authority? Why should I be viewed as an authority? And then what are some elements that I do in the ongoing communication, putting myself out there, that you're going to start trusting me? As far as the first part of the question, tax and accounting education background, even college, they're not taking marketing classes. They're not taking sales classes. And, when they get out there, it's like, okay, let's open a shingle, let's start attracting clients. And then they start saying yes to, anyone they can, or anyone, they just need clients. And that's how you end up being a generalist firm. What I'm suggesting, I think what we're talking about today, is setting yourself up with a plan like any normal startup would. Basically, who, what, and then start developing a narrative around, how I am different from other people. And those are the brands, those are the practices and businesses straight out that are doing very well.
Yeah. I think there's another trend too. I don't want to go too heavy into this based on what you said, but I think just something for people to be aware of as they might be listening to this, right, is how buyers are finding firms and stuff is just changing a lot. And they're continually being recommended to other firms for problems they have, right? Which is, if you think about COVID and everything that's happened now, you have people in Slack groups now, you have people in LinkedIn, you have people in Facebook groups. This community effect is very large, and they're in there and they're going to, right? They're not even thinking about tax or accountants or anything, but they're saying, hey, I have this problem, right? And then all of a sudden they get 10 recommendations. You don't realize most of those are to another firm, right? Like, who does that one service. So all of a sudden they're talking to that one service and they're like, hey, well, we can actually take care of all that stuff. Or the other trend I think I see happening a little bit more is people are actually, back to the positioning angle a little bit, they're getting like multiple specialists actually, right? So now if you're a small business, right, you might not have one accountant anymore. You might have like 3 actually that have different like skills and expertise, right? This person does my payroll. This, helps me with growth planning, right? And you might have multiple experts now. I think it's just a trend for people to, like, it's changing how people are looking at their accountant, how they are finding them. And you have to be, I think, ever vigilant with that now. Because it's weird to say too, one other thing I actually have a good opinion is, I don't think people are as tied to their accountant as they used to be, right? Which is before there was loyalty. And I think it's kind of, I want to go who's going to solve my problem, and I'll go to the next person that's going to solve it potentially. Is that wrong, do you think? Or?
Well, not for my clients, because they're using my system and they're in front of their clients all the time. They have great client relationships. But the answer is yes. It's much easier to make a change As far as experts and specialties, I just look at my own setup right now. I have a tax attorney for higher end stuff. I have a CPA firm that does basically virtual CFO services. We then have an R&D tax credit expert that comes in, and then there's someone who does the actual tax preparation of returns. So there's 4 specialists there. You're seeing this in the legal community as well, how a lot of people who worked at bigger firms, how now they're able, because of technology, digital front offices, as we call it, you're able to set up a digital front office and attract clients in much narrower focuses of work and make a living out of it. You don't have to be a part of a bigger firm because someone expects to get every single service through. It's much easier to say, hey, I get it. This person specializes. I'm going to pay him more. I pay that tax attorney, much more than I would other tax advice, right? So that's basically just in a nutshell kind of communicates what has changed. As far as the social side and even referrals, if you are a referral-based business, the referrals are taking place online. And, people are asking on Nextdoor, they're asking on Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever. So then that referral happens. And what I see often is that someone goes to refer their person that they love. They don't have an established profile. So they go type in the business name on Facebook. Oh, here's my CPA firm. But there's nothing comes up. If you did have a nice profile on Facebook, for example, you had content that you're sending there all the time. You have reviews from people that have, said nice things about you. When you type in the name of the company, your link comes. It's easily shareable. That's a great referral. It goes straight to your digital footprint in the social world. The chances of them continuing to research and try to find someone else are much less. So there's a kind of nuances of how even referrals happen in the social world.
Yeah, agreed. You had one more kind of pillar here that I thought I just wanted to go to really quick as we kind of wrap up this topic, and it was actually around staffing. So I'm not going to be super deep in this area, but it was around, I think, staffing, right, and getting the right team members around, keeping them, and that's obviously a key to growth, because if you can't do that, you're gonna always feel busy because you got too much work to do, right? I'd love to kind of get some of your insights there.
Yeah, well, I think people, especially CPAs, when they think of marketing, it's all about advertising or sales. You don't think about your brand reputation. And I did a podcast with Sarah Smith about the Great Resignation and basically how accountants can attract and retain more staff, quality staff. And one of the big topics we talked about was the branding element. So meaning having a career section on your website, having a professional website. Think about it, you're trying to recruit some high quality people, and you have a website that was built 10 years ago. It says nothing. It is not something that someone would go, wait a second. When I'm used to dealing with brands like Apple and Uber and Amazon and all these other things online, and those are the experiences I'm used to, and then I go to someone who wants me to spend my life with them, and work with them, and it's just a really poorly built site or digital image, whatever you want to call it. This goes into that whole front office. It's like having a lobby that isn't decorated nice and it's shabby and holes in the carpet. It's the same thing. Your digital footprint, your front office needs to be up to par. It needs to be really nice and professional. It's not that hard to do, but it will have a direct reflection on the type of talent you can attract, the type of people that want to work there. People want to feel proud of the brand they're working with, the practice they're working with. So I think it's a direct correlation.
I think especially too, right, as you are probably hiring and stuff, and you're starting to probably hire the next generation of CPAs and stuff, it's going to matter probably more and more to them. The type of firm they're joining, what the brand image looks like, something they're proud of. And also, right, as we think about the employees, how they can be advocates of growth, right? As you build out a team and you can start getting them maybe creating content, sharing on LinkedIn, sharing that expertise. That's another like hidden growth lever that, since we're kind of talking about growth a little bit, although you might be too busy, but if you're thinking about how you get bigger and better clients, is how do you empower your team to go out and be part of that growth driver to find bigger clients that'll allow you to be a more profitable, efficient firm?
Yeah, there's a lot to be said about, again, demographics and age and the digital first generations. I was reading some research about and I'm not going to call it television because television and streaming, but entertainment, and how the future of entertainment will be more in the metaverse than it will be the traditional, I'm watching a show, a sitcom, whatever, because it's going to be more interactive. It's going to change. And as the older demographics start retiring and or dying out, the demand for those type of mediums is going to change. So I think that is very true when it comes to the talent you're bringing in younger people that understand social a little bit more, how they network a little bit differently. And those are 100% growth levers. I mean, one of the biggest areas we're getting a lot of demand from now is our efforts on LinkedIn. 100% has changed. We're becoming more active. We're trying to communicate more with through that medium, and it definitely translates to more leads and sales.
Yeah. I think as we maybe, I'll give my final thought. I'm sure you have one too, right? As we think about, hey, so we're hearing all the time, we're busier than ever. I'm not thinking about new clients and everything else. And well, that's totally valid. It's really, that's the time to really start thinking about your growth strategy and how you're going to grow, because it's not something you just turn on, right? I think that's the kind of the big miss is it's great, but if there's ever a point where you're not growing or need to turn it on, like you have that engine running, right? Like you can turn down business at any time. Well, if it's coming in and you need to start saying yes, great, you have that engine rolling. Or you can start, like you said, start doing the positioning stuff, figuring that out, start finding bigger clients. But now is the time, if you are busier than ever, to really rethink, okay, well, what is our, like you said, kind of build the strategy for growth. And I think that's just, I think the big takeaway for me and for people to think about. And I'll give you the final word, Lee.
Yeah, and I'm going to kind of go into a different direction, but I think it's work-life balance. And I think what the pandemic has created is more people have, realized I don't want to work myself to death in a tax accounting office and doing tax prep work, for 18 hours a day through 3 months, or, now it's so consolidated. The tax prep season used to be much longer, and now, I mean, I've heard a lot of accountants. I mean, they're, I don't know what percentage are going on extension this year, but it's going to be a big one. But also just to start thinking about, if you look at your practice from a work-life balance, maybe you want to change the way you do things. And this is where our suggestions of looking at positioning, not being a generalist, being pickier with the type of clients, and then hopefully attracting clients that want to work with you. Because if you position yourself well, you're going to be able to set up a waiting list, to be totally honest, where I only take this many clients in this program. And it is $5,000 a month for X, and it's $2,500 a month. I'm sold out on this program. If you want to jump in, if anyone leaves me, here's my waiting list. And that's why a marketing funnel, that allows you to market. I guess it's the marketing first mindset. It allows you to have a much more stable income and make more money, and not sit here and go, oh my God, I grew 5%. I did so well. When the rest of the world looks at 5% growth, it goes, you got to be kidding me. We could be growing much faster. So hopefully that's some of the things that tax and accounting firms, smaller firms, will start thinking about. And I think that's what we're trying to talk about as much as we can.
I think it's about maybe what you said, figuring out what matters to you first, right? Do you want a lifestyle, or do you want to grow and have a big team? Like, that's kind of what you got to figure out as probably step one. And then from there, defining your growth plan.
Absolutely.